Tears of the Kingdom or Baldur's Gate 3. If we look at Metacritic, 96 versus 96 with over 100 pro reviews each, though Larian's masterpiece has a higher user score than Nintendo's. So let's settle this once and for all through 8 categories. But first, leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. And now let's dive into this Game of the Year duel with Game World. Tears of the Kingdom does not only reuse the existing surface from Breath of the Wild, but adds new caves and underground sections to the settlements and provinces these are found in. Then you have the Heavenly Sky Islands, breathtaking in its beauty, but underused. Finally, the third layer, the depths, where you go for zonite and crystallized charges from Yiga camps and strong enemies and bosses. A master mode level where your hearts will literally break. With that said, all layers have issues. The surface is mostly still the same map, limiting the sense of discovery primarily to caves. The Sky Islands and objectives here are far fewer than most of us anticipated based on the marketing and even the box art. Finally, the depths. Outside of Eldin, this inverted surface map with its light roots beneath the surface shrines is just the same darkness and grey plus Yiga and enemy camps. It is as if it is procedurally generated. Sometimes less is more, and the depths might have benefited from being a little scaled down in favor of more Sky Islands, with objectives and most of all story and NPCs.
Baldur's Gate 3 has awesome locales and an extremely strong design. The game is a linear one, well from a game world perspective, so naturally a lot of thought would be given to the overall world design. There are different choices and paths across the zone you can make, allowing for more freedom once in a while, but the game doesn't want you to stray away from the main plot. Baldur's Gate 3 is a Dungeons & Dragons game, with different paths to be taken each time to keep the ride rather excellent. The different locales each have their own highlights, making it extremely varied and fun. The design of the Forgotten Realms, and we can't overstate this enough, is pretty incredible. The medieval theming, mixed with the different types of environments, goes a long way in making the world feel alive. As you can see it through the party's eyes, every moment is seemingly crafted to keep you invested in the game's setting. Is that the same as the game world though? Yes and no. The game world is usually something that you interact with, which happens in Baldur's Gate 3 in context to the overall narrative. They are more so set pieces to present cohesion for a whole experience. Zelda just has much more interactivity. You feel as a part of this world not only by playing, but by how organic and realistic everything surrounding you is. Game World goes to Zelda. And we begin with Baldur's Gate 3, which is very much a Dungeons & Dragons game in every sense of the word. Well, okay, maybe not every sense. Some gameplay systems had to be altered to fit the formula of a video game. Not every aspect of a tabletop game simply translates well. All participants will roll a 20-sided die to see who will go first in the round, perform their individual actions, and maybe perform some additional actions during someone else's turn. What sets the combat apart though is the hidden depth found within the combat system. There are fun ways to power up your weapon-based attacks, like dipping into substances scattered across the environment. You are also limited in how much or what spells you can use. This forces you to think strategically about every turn you will make. You can even invite a friend online and allocate specific character tasks, making it feel more like a proper D&D campaign. Outside of the fights, there is so much to see and do. So many quests and puzzles to interact with, which goes beyond anything any game has ever done. Baldur's Gate 3 rewards creativity and has basically every single possibility already figured out. It knows that the player will try some absurd things to get the job done. Not every solution will be positive, mind you, but the game keeps rewarding you across multiple playthroughs by doing something in a completely different and fun way. We were shocked and delighted by the game going along with our stupid thoughts and simply embracing them. This is interactivity of the highest order and something that should be celebrated.
Tears of the Kingdom's level of interactivity, on the other hand, is unreal. The 4 base powers, and in particular Fuse and Ultra Hand, offers creativity on a level that is very rarely seen. A perfect example of what is possible with the right budget, ambition and talent. Not only that, the Zelda team also hit bullseye with their Zonai items, which changed the way we play the game with unrivaled maneuverability. Technology to conquer the different maps, but also the shrines found in the game. There are just so many ways to destroy enemies, all with the use of fused weapons. from classic bomb flowers to forcing monsters against each other with model bots, and the Lionel stopping puff shrooms, all deliberately distributed in the depths. Then you have auto-build, create all kinds of machinery and then rebuild it with the press of a button. Tears of the Kingdom, after mining for Zonite and using this one for upgrades, has elements of open world games set in current modern times, and actually does some things better. And it is this blend compared to Baldur's Gate 3, plus so many others that we don't have time to go over, that makes Tears of the Kingdom an almost impossible game to surpass when it comes to gameplay. Tears of the Kingdom's quest is an improvement from Breath. The opening offers a sense of wonder and mystery on Great Sky Island that makes it rival the Great Plateau. Then, from the surface, we head for actual dungeons, which may not be among the best in the series, but these are a step up from the Divine Beasts with their own themes and design. We wish they were better than the path to the temples in most cases, but in both cases, companions join us to conquer the temples. Yes, this game has dungeons, though most of them are a blend of Divine Beasts and the former. Just like in Breath of the Wild, to get the true ending cutscene, you have to clear 4 objectives upon leaving the tutorial area. Beat the temples, visit Korok Forest, pull the Master Sword, and collect all memories. This time though, the hunt for the Dragon Tears is a great surface activity.
Baldur's Gate 3 embraces the atmosphere of a Dungeons & Dragons game and runs wild with it. The game doesn't shy away from that fact at all. It combines the best elements from both the physical and digital worlds and creates something incredibly rich. Exploring the Forgotten Realms is equally fulfilling, with fun hubs and interactions to really delve into. The systems give an overwhelming amount of freedom unheard of in any typical role-playing adventure. The game is split across 3 acts, with each being seen as its own standalone RPG. Each has its own fair take of stakeholders, quests, and dungeons that really bring together different kinds of flavour to the forefront. Players will be lured to try different things, but it kind of depends on how devious you really are. It is extremely well written, and we refuse to spoil it. You are in control, meaning that 2 playthroughs can feel entirely unique depending on the choices that you make. That is unprecedented for a role-playing game. It is Dungeons & Dragons where anything and everything can happen. Entertainment of the highest order. Let's face it, there is just so much more in Baldur's main quest than in Tears. Baldur's Gate 3 has a pretty incredible selection of bosses. With that being said, they are devious beyond belief. Just like you can experiment to win, the bosses don't hold back if they see any time of opening. A good example is that you would need to be careful around any sort of gaps. If an enemy can severely damage you, they most certainly will. On the flip side, you can shove them off to their death. Positioning, strategy, and doing the most within the mechanics is what keeps you coming back for more. Unlike other games, however, you don't have to deal with every boss possible. Some may not even be on the route you decided upon and will become a stretch to go out of your way and complete. Each act has about 12 special encounters with a bigger ball of moves, options, and lore. They are varied in every act, though Act 2 is decisively more nightmarish than the rest. It is a selection of creatures that goes deeply into the uncanny, making for an experience that edges on horror. Overall though, there will be surprises no matter how many times you play. The bosses are that unpredictable.
Can Tears of the Kingdom even match these mind-blowing boss fights? Some, definitely. Queen Gibdo, the Phantom Ganon, and Ganondorf boss fights do pack a punch. The final to a degree that we would argue that it is the best in the series from a visual and gameplay perspective. Colgera is awesome, but sadly the only true sky boss in the main quest until the very end. Moktarok is a bad boss, but luckily the other temple bosses stand the test. Some are redefined classics, but in places you wouldn't expect them. In addition, Master Koga is great. The variety and quality is better than in Breath of the Wild. The 2 new layers have multiple new bosses in different forms, and the new inclusions do not disappoint. Both games have amazing bosses, and especially final bosses. But despite this being a category with awesome inclusion in both cases, we have to give it to Baldur's Gate 3, and it comes down to variety. Tears of the Kingdom is the definition of a game that constantly gets you sidetracked. The game boasts solid quest lines like the Yiga, and when it comes to multi-stage side quests, the Zelda team knew what they were doing by placing these in provinces without temples on the surface or in the sky above. That is right, Akkala and Faron both offer solid multi-stage side quests. The same goes for the central mine bargainer statue and bringing in his eyes from the former shrines of the Great Plateau. Sadly, there's an overwhelming amount of fetch quests, and this is the thing, we could have had more quality over the endless quantity. Tears often represent big effort, small reward when it comes to most side quests.
The side quests in Baldur's Gate 3 add breadth and depth to the overall proceedings of the game. While they don't relate to the main story very much, they are crucial to make it to the end credits. By participating in side activities, players will receive information and gear that will make the ride more comfortable. Considering how mean the bosses and wider enemy scope can be, that is incredibly welcome. Finishing side quests might have direct consequences for the route you're taking in the main adventure. In rare instances, it completely changes how the player will go. The true completionist will get a kick out of being so actively rewarded for doing side quests. There is something inherently beautiful about being encouraged to interact at every possible step. Obviously, the player doesn't need to go help the world if they don't want to, but you are definitely missing some lore if you do. The main cast gets their own chances to shine in personal quests, while others deal in the absolutely absurd. Side quests are usually Zelda's strong suit, but Baldur simply goes into more depth and makes his distractions more than worthwhile. The category goes to Baldur's Gate 3. As we've mentioned across the last number of sections, the story runs deep throughout Baldur's Gate 3. The different races and characters have things that only they can do, making the journey a rather diverse one. There are 11 races, which allows you to change the way you play drastically. In that sense, the story and its characters are Baldur's strongest assets. The game is very replayable with tons of ways to approach the same beats. Across 3 acts, a lot of different themes are put on the table. There are different things to appreciate on both ends of the scale. And the final act? Oh boy. Baldur's Gate 3 offers some intense showdowns that wrap up an incredible journey. Baldur's Gate 3 sticks the landing like no other. One of the true unsung heroes in the story department is how well the relationships are handled. They aren't unlike the real world where you build up meaningful companionships over time before really coming together as a unit. It was pleasant how well these attributes are managed in the context of the game, making the Dungeons & Dragons experience equally unpredictable in the digital world. The only annoying factor is that the whole experience can be a lot to digest, but with a journal at the ready, players can read up on whatever they have unlearned.
Is Tears of the Kingdom's story on the same level as Baldur? The opening is the best in the series, and the memories are far more fun to locate this time, and you're encouraged to do them in order. But much still doesn't work. Since this is a non-linear game, you're still likely to do them out of order, and in the process, ruin what could have been some awesome twists. To be fair, we would have preferred a more direct or manipulative approach from Ganondorf in the present. The imprisoning war gets old fast, and the memories should have been linear, as getting the great twist ruined should not be possible. No doubt, the ending of this game is spectacular, but it shows what could have been with more linearity. Tears' story doesn't get to shine outside a few linear sections of the game, and not having voice scenes with more key to the main quest characters was also a mistake. As a result, the story category goes to Baldur's Gate 3.
Now over to the soundtracks and sound design. Tears of the Kingdom has an amazing soundtrack which is used better than in Breath of the Wild, that and boasting superior sound design in general. The main quest is a joy to listen to from the start to finish, as the variety truly shines, especially in the temples. Having music as an important side quest line where we assemble back a mini orchestra is what Breath of the Wild needed. The evolving dungeon themes, boss themes, and so much more. The music in Baldur's Gate 3 is pretty good. It offers fantastical themes that fit the medieval aesthetic to an utter T. The main criticism is that the music, while strong, is very similar to a previous title made by Larian. While we certainly hear similarities, there are standouts that are really worth listening to. The Mind Flayer theme is one. Another standout is I Want to Live. The tune features folklore-esque vocals, nice piano tones, and allows you as the player to breathe. Zelda reuses a lot, but the new themes and most of all the incredible open-air sound design allow it to edge out Baldur's Gate 3 ever so slightly.
Industry impact. Can Zelda force a draw? Tears of the Kingdom's new gameplay is revolutionary. The 5 powers of Link's Zonai arm are epic, especially when fused or ultra-handed with Zonai items. It is just the longer you play this game, the more the repetitive cracks surface. The ending is spectacular, but there's just so much that was exactly the same as in Breath of the Wild. Baldur's Gate 3 on the other hand is a brand new experience, one that gets better the further you go and leaves you with a feeling of completion and fulfillment. The category, an entire duel, goes to Baldur's Gate 3, which objectively stands in Tears of the Kingdom's way. That is the honest truth. It is a brand new, complete masterpiece. To show your appreciation for this duel, comment, but more importantly, share this video, like it, and then subscribe and press that notification. All helps the video and the channel. A big shout out goes to our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.